Melissa, do we have everyone now?
I believe we do. Shirley?
Yes,
Okay, good. You can hear us?
I can hear. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, and we should be live streaming now. So April, if you want to go ahead and...
Okay, I want to welcome everyone to our Board of Trustees meeting. It is now 6:30. We want to call the meeting to order. Do we have anything to add to our agenda?
Shirley?
Yes,
Okay, good. You can hear us?
I can. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, and we should be live streaming now.
Sorry. You're fine.
April, if you want to go ahead and... There we go. Okay. It was live streaming in the background and replaying back all of that. My apologies.
That's okay.
All right.
Did we have anything to add to the agenda?
I don't have anything now.
Okay, so let's move on to the approval of the minutes of the March 16th, 2020 board meeting. Are there any corrections needed for the minutes?
There shouldn't be one on my end unless anybody else has any.
Okay. Do I have a motion then to approve the minutes?
Make a motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
All right, the minutes will be approved as written. We will move on to our reports. Let's start with the treasurer's report.
All right. Our starting balance on February 29th was 1,716,719. Our income for the month was 41,209. Our expenses for the month were 51,570. And that gave us an ending balance on March 31st of 1,706,358.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the March check register and the financial report?
I make a motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Mike?
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
All right, those opposed say no. Okay, let's move on to the Heritage CD, please.
The funds on the Heritage CD that matured last time, I went ahead and let them renew at Heritage 60 months at a 1.04% interest rate. So it's a whole lot lower than what they have been. But everybody else's rates were a whole lot lower than that. So this should be good there. For my report and statistics, our circulation and program stats were down. That's pretty much expected since we were closed for half of the month. But our Kentucky Library Unbound checkouts, our website visits and social media engagement, and our remote database use, they were all up. So that's a good thing. Some updates on where we're at with summer reading. We didn't send out any donation request letters this year. Just because so many are struggling right now, we kind of thought it might be best to not ask for more money.
Right.
We are currently checking with the performers that we already had scheduled to see if we can't maybe just postpone that for a later date. We are able to have a large group program. We are also planning some kind of online summer reading program where they can sign up online and be able to track the reading and some way to handle incentives that way. And then instead of the usual prizes, we're looking into the possibility of purchasing gift cards from our local businesses that have been hit the hardest. And then maybe we can somehow award that electronically to where we wouldn't have to, mail them anything. They wouldn't have to pick anything up or anything like that. For maintenance, JC Tree Service began our spring cleanup, and they've also started mowing. ARSM sealed our echo flooring, and then Cintas completed the quarterly inspection, and everything was good with that. For legislation, unfortunately, it's official. They have cut state aid to all libraries. It's a 1-year budget, so we'll have to see for the following year if we manage to get that put back in. Senate Bill 5 passed. It was vetoed by the governor, but then it was overridden. So we can take the compensating rate each year, but if we wanted to take anything more than that, we would have to get approval from the fiscal court before being able to go ahead with that. The rest of the bills, Senate Bill 83, House Bill 141, and Senate Bill 241, all of those failed. And then some good news, they froze our employer contribution rate for SERS, that's Kentucky retirement. So that's going to stay at this year's rate. So that's some good news there. And then on the federal level, we do fall under the paid sick leave and expanded family and medical leave under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So what that means is between now and the end of the year, it's for full-time staff, they would be able to take up to 80 hours at full pay should they have to quarantine for 2 weeks. So of course, this would go into effect once we do reopen. Part-time are eligible for the same, just at a prorated rate based on how many hours they work per week.
Melissa,
Yes,
now, even though everybody's not working, is everybody getting paid?
yes.
Okay, that's good.
For professional activities, I'm attending a weekly North Region Directors meeting. So we're doing that each week via Zoom. And Tanya is attending the North Region youth meetings. They're doing that every other week. For our COVID-19 response to date, all staff are getting paid for their regular scheduled hours. And everybody wanted me to extend their thanks to you all for that. It's really highly appreciated, especially when we see everybody else, struggling with losing their jobs and all of that. Staff are primarily working from home unless it's absolutely necessary that they have to go to the library to pick something up or kind of job. But we are making sure that we communicate with each other to make sure nobody's really crossing paths, making sure that we're keeping up with all of the good hygiene and disinfecting and all of that. We did let staff borrow library laptops and computers to help them and other supplies just to help work from home. And then we purchased 2 hotspots from AT&T because we do have a couple staff member who can't get internet at their house. And so the plan with those is once we are able to reopen and things kind of get back a little bit more to normal, that we would be able to actually make those available to lend to the public and kind of do a trial with that. And if that works out well, we might be able to add more in the future.
That sounds good.
So, listen, I wanted to thank everybody. I know you guys are working from home, but I know the staff is also working hard from home. I know they're not just sitting there, and they took laptops out. I've seen them at the Wi-Fi spots before at the schools, and I've seen you collecting books before, like making sure the boxes were closed up and in the book, so I know everybody's working, and I'm thankful that you guys are still participating and doing everything that you guys can, even when you're at home. So thank you guys too for that.
I appreciate it. A couple cool things. I won't read through the whole list of everything that we're doing at home, but just a couple cool things. Trish actually has a 3D printer at home, so she's printing the little ear saver pieces to hold the masks. Country Patchwork is actually giving out masks to community members, so she's giving anything that she prints to them. Also, like Mike said, Sandy's taking the Bookmobile hotspot to Northern a couple times a week to set up so that people can access Wi-Fi. And we are, Fran's kind of taken this on. We're doing the Pendleton County COVID-19 History as It Happens writing project. So with that, we're just, asking anybody who wants to kind of keep a journal of their experiences during this time. Because it's kind of like now we're looking back at the flu pandemic from, the early 1900s, and there's not a whole lot of information out there. So our goal is, when the next generation wants to look back at this time, they'll actually have the information about what was going on in our county. So that's a really cool thing. We also set up a online application for people who don't have library cards to be able to apply for a library card online. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and email them their login information, but then we'll also mail them a library card. So when we do reopen, they can bring that in and be able to check out items. I think so far we've had one person sign up for one of those. Okay. So that's just kind of a little bit about what we're doing so far.
Well, I think it's a wonderful job, and I'm very appreciative. I enjoy following on Facebook all the different things that they post, especially about the 30 days of family fun. I think that's a good idea.
That was a really cool idea.
That is very good. All right, well, we will move on. Do we have anything for the regional report?
Pretty much all it provides resources for the coronavirus, and also talks about Senate Bill 150, which is what's actually letting us meet in this method here. They did extend the E-rate deadline, but I've already filed all of that, so that's already taken care of.
Okay, that looks good. All right, we'll move straight into our old business with the update of the sale of the Highway 27 property.
So good news and bad news. The buyer who made the offer originally in January came back and accepted our final counter offer. After the acceptance paperwork and all of that was signed, he lost his job due to all of this going on. Wasn't comfortable moving forward. And so I signed the form to release him from that agreement.
Okay.
Next is refinancing the building debt bond. So Chip, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you for an update.
Sure. Good afternoon or evening, everybody, and thanks for entertaining me in this format. Hope everybody is doing well as we can. So the goal tonight was, had things been normal, what we would have done is authorize bond documents to refinance your 2011 issue. I had worked on it 2011 issue when it built the facility, and it's a fixed rate bond issue. This is just a good news kind of item where you're just trying to say, hey, it's just like a mortgage. I'm paying 4.2% on my building debt right now. And so I've noticed I'm looking around at everybody, making eye contact with each one of you, but I probably should just look at the camera. Sorry. It's my first Zoom meeting.
Oh, you're
So, your existing debt right now is about $4.2 million. It's fixed rate. You have some years left on it. Was an issue that let me pull up exactly how many payments are left on it. The home computer runs a bit slower than the work computer. While I find that, here we go. Okay, sorry about that. The final payment for the 2011 bonds was scheduled to be finished in 2041, so it was a 30-year borrowing. And your interest rate's 4.2 fixed. And so what we were going to do tonight was have bond documents that would authorize the refinancing of that issue. And we were hopeful at the time to do it at lower interest rates that were close to 2.9%. And if we were successful with that, that would have it would save the library each year about $10,000 to $13,000 per year. But everybody's familiar with what happened with the stock market. And it was a precipitous drop from those highs in the $30,000 level to the 19s and 18s when it started to fall. And the same thing happens with the municipal bond market. The treasury, the interest rates of the treasury went low and went down, which is normally a good thing for our market, our interest rates in the municipal space, which is what Pendleton County Library would borrow at the schools, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the state of California. Interest rates for those entities increased. And so now we are at such a point, it's not even worth your time right now to recommend authorizing the document. That the candidate advice is just wait and see. We expect the interest rates for the municipal bond market to come back in line and be able to opportunistically refinance it here hopefully in the next several months, but we'll just have to monitor it and watch the market and see what soon we can bring it back before you guys. That was a long-winded way of saying that you had a refinancing that was going to save you lots of money, and now it doesn't. So
That's understandable.
Yep.
I'm happy to answer any questions you all have.
I don't have any questions at this time.
I don't have any.
I really don't either. I mean, and I can't imagine that you can see the future and tell us how this is going to go. But no, I mean, I think for now, I appreciate the work you did. I mean, I appreciate, that you came here tonight to talk to us about it, and our bad luck, I guess.
No, it's not bad luck. It's okay. I don't have a prediction for what the interest rates will look like in the near future. The good news for you is these bonds that you have are fixed, so that rate's not going to change for
Right.
one. The second thing is when the bonds are technically callable December 1, 2021, which is a year and a half from now. And as we approach that date, we can refinance it in advance any time that you want with taxable bonds, which is what we were going to do. Or once we hit December 1, 2021, we can actually use tax exempt debt, which is generally lower than taxable debt, to refinance it. So it might be a situation where we just get to be patient and wait, and it likely will work out in your favor.
Okay, I'm not really familiar with municipal bonds enough anyway. Is 4.2, I mean, which is our fixed rate, is that a good rate anyway? I mean, we weren't paying a ridiculously high rate anyway, right?
Oh, no, not at all. Correct. So
Okay.
it's a fine question. So Pendleton County Public Library is an investment grade credit. When we did the deal back in 2011, we took the credit before Standard and Poor's rating agencies, and they rated the Pendleton County Library A, which is an investment grade rating. And so when we sold the bonds in that market in 2011, 4.2% for a 30-year loan was a great interest rate.
Okay.
And it just so happens now that, it was a 30-year deal when you did it. Now it's 4.2% in a different interest rate environment. And now it's 2020, and you only have 22 years left to pay, or 21 years left to pay on this loan. So if we refinanced it, we'd actually be refinancing with a 21-year interest rate loan. And they were as low as 2.8, 2.9%, but now they've bumped up to about 3.7. So even though we can lower the interest rate from 4.2 to 3.7, it's not worth your time, and it won't generate savings. So anyway.
Right. Okay. Well, I appreciate the information. Thank you.
Well, I work with lots of libraries, work with cities and counties and public universities, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing. And I know that you'll be even more important when we can convene and gather, and you can be that place to get information out. So thanks for what you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll hang on for a little bit. What's the rest of the agenda? I didn't see that.
I should have sent it to you.
Oh,
We're discussing fee amnesty, signing checks, and then just what we're going to be doing moving forward.
I'm happy to hang on. Just it's okay with you.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
sounds
cool.
good. All right, so we are ready to move to our new business. So let's talk about the fee amnesty.
So what this is they're trying to do a statewide initiative to offer a one-time amnesty for all fines and fees. They're trying to get all libraries to sign on to this. Basically, it would wipe off any fines or fees at the time that each library closed. So of course we're already fine free. So for us, if we wanted to take part, it would be a fee amnesty. So where we're at with fees right now is we currently have $99,415.20 in fees owed to the library. That's primarily on items that haven't been returned and some damaged items. We're probably never ever going to see the majority of that money. So it's not really an issue of money lost. We offer in our policy, if somebody loses or damages an item, we can set them to a limited borrower, which lets them pay, a little bit of it at a time each time that they want to check something out. And I can see where for the people who are doing that, and we do have people who are doing it, and they're greatly appreciative that we're working with them that way. I can see this having a huge impact for those people because they really are trying to pay down these fees. And in general, it's kind of the same reasons as going fine free is why they're trying to do this, which, is to provide relief to our patrons, hopefully get more patrons to come in and use the library. But it comes down to your all's decision if you want to extend it to fees this one time or keep going with the limited borrower.
Did you say 99,000?
Yes.
Okay. Um, off the top of your head, do you know, is that, I mean, I know because it sounds like a lot. Is that spread out, I mean, over just a ton of people? Okay, I mean, it's just really, and some who probably aren't even around here. I mean, I'm just thinking like,
Right, right.
right,
And that too, that is actually on any cards that existed pretty much from the beginning of time that we were automated. We did do one kind of fee amnesty when we switched ILSs, but that was back in 2001.
so basically 19 years worth of
Right.
fees.
Yeah. So some of this is even past uh, I guess statute of limitations.
Right, right. Um, how much, how much in fees do we typically actually collect?
Let's see.
That, you know, that are actually paid.
Right, right. I would say, and I'm estimating here, maybe $500 a year.
Okay, wipe it.
I don't think we need to proceed with it personally. I think that we just continue as we are, just fine free.
Yeah, I like that too.
I'm
Is that
definitely
just-
on board for fine free. My worry is when this is over, everyone's going to be bringing their library books, their videos back at one time, and it's going to be an extra cost to the library for librarians to probably put more time in of gathering them books in and calling people and find out what that is, and that's my worry at that point. I mean, I don't know how you'll address that time when it comes, but that's going to be just a lot of material coming in at one time and a lot of work time and a lot of people working probably over, than what they usually work. And I don't know how you would handle that as far as the expense fees that could come in. If there's a way to help that, even if for our employees at that point, to pay them out, they have to work over in addition to what they're doing.
But I mean, we're just talking one time, right?
Right.
Like just now. I mean, so like starting when we opened, we could go back to our typical policy. Like it's basically like we've wiped it clean to this point. So when we reopen, it would be starting new. So then you know what happens with your fees, or how checkouts are handled if you don't return books would not be paid, not be impacted by something that happened 10 years ago. It would be, everybody would be basically starting fresh.
Correct.
And you think of the roughly almost $100,000 in unpaid fees, we're probably collecting, you said around 500 a year, maybe?
Maybe, yeah.
Do you know off the top of your head how much of that 99,000 is very outstanding? If you had, or even if you had to ballpark it, I mean, are we talking like the last couple years? I'm gonna say if this has been 19 years worth, I mean, I'm just wondering what of this, I mean, I don't even know what of this could we even legally collect forcibly, and how much of this is so long gone, I mean, there could be people deceased that are in the system as owing money, correct? Or people that are no longer living in the area, or
Right. And that's more likely, is it's people that are no longer living in the area. Some of it is people who used to come to the library a long time ago. And they lost an item, so we charged them for it, or it damaged and there was bad blood there, and they just said, well, we're not coming back, we'll find a different library, or or whatever. um I would say, I mean, the majority of it, I think IMLS, I think, recommends that you completely delete patrons who have been inactive for 3 years. So you could look at this and say, anything within the last 6 years would maybe be funds that we could pursue. So that's 3 years not expired plus 3 years expired. They recommend anything older than that actually gets deleted anyway, just because of that statute of limitations.
Right.
Um, I would say easily, oh gosh, easily 60,000 is probably over that time limit.
Okay.
That's ballpark.
Yeah. I mean, so basically the bulk of that we probably legally. I mean, if this is what. I mean, I'm just reading through the information, and it sounds like that's what is being recommended. I think do it at the very least. It looks like a goodwill gesture to our patrons and our community, because at the end of the day, if we're talking about a few $100s over the course of a year in collected fees, and a bunch of these probably legally need wiped out anyway, I think it's worth it for the goodwill gesture myself. We can, once we reopen, we can, start fresh with that fine system, or even meet and, fine tune it and decide how we move forward after this. But for the time being, I think if it really is a few $100s a year that we're actually collecting, I think it's worth going along with the fee amnesty. That's my opinion.
Anyone else for or against?
I personally would like to just keep it the same way instead of letting somebody else, you go, it just seems like to me the fee amnesty sounds good, but then somebody's trying to get their hands in on you too at a later date, you know what I'm saying? Of what we do and everything. I just like the way you do it now. How much, like Mike brought up about, naturally there's going to be a little bit of overtime when all the books start coming back and everything. Have you ever thought about how much you kind of, what's out and everything, how much overtime you'd have to pay? Would you have to pay a lot or not?
I don't expect that we would have any overtime.
Well, then I think just staying the same way we are now with the what I'm saying, the returns and that, I think just keep it the same way we're doing it. But that's my opinion, what everybody else thinks too.
No, I'm fine with that. I think the answer is good. Because the fact is, when our book stations, like say in Butler, fills up with books, when we open it back up, and we have books on the ground, and we have books sitting in the rain, and we have things like that happening, we're gonna have to let them fees go at that point, because if they disappear or if they get lost, and we can't check that book station every hour, every 2 hours when it opens back up, at that point, and they'll probably fill up pretty fast. Everybody wants to get their stuff out of the house and get it back. I got a pile of books and DVDs just sitting waiting to go back, right? So I'm ready to return those too. So when I get there and the book station, the drop box is full, what am I doing with my books? I'll probably keep them, but I'm sure there's times where people will just be like, I'll stack them on top of the book, drop, or I'll set them on the ground and the book drop, they'll get them. And then those books disappear or those DVDs disappear. I don't want somebody being charged for that. I want, like you said, if they do disappear, that's fine. Don't get charged, and we just started a clean slate, like you guys say, and move forward from that.
And
Melissa,
I'm
like
for
Mike-
leaving it the way it is also.
Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
I was like what Mike was saying too, was like when that library reopens, would that be feasible to have someone, I don't know what the times you check the book boxes and bring them back. Is there any way we could maybe at least check them once a day, or if it's feasible, maybe a couple times a week, a couple more times a week, I don't know.
Yeah,
Would that put your staff on too much stress or whatever? Not stress isn't the right word, but you know what I'm saying, but having to send somebody out and check them again, how many boxes do we have? I know we got the one in Butler.
we
And
have
then
the
the one outside the library.
right, and the one outside the library we check every day. We also, if we expect a large amount, we'll check it multiple times a day. So for example, when we've closed during the first part of the day for a staff meeting, and then we reopen in the evening, we'll check it in the morning like we usually do, but we'll also check it again before we reopen. That way, any items that were returned while we were closed gets brought in. So that's really not a big deal. It's right there in the parking lot. We could check it twice a day if we need to. That's something we can keep an eye on. The one in Butler, we check every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I really don't think even, sharing the task between staff if we need to, it's not going to be a big deal to check that at least daily.
Okay. Well, that'd just
I-
help out, because those boxes hold pretty many books, don't they?
Yes.
So if you check it daily, it should be pretty good until the big crush is over, and then go back to your normal schedule.
Right.
I mean, I mean, obviously I'm in the minority here, but I mean, we're talking a negligible amount of yearly income. We're not talking about changing policy moving forward, correct? This was about a one-time, we're gonna wipe these fees out and start new after this, state of emergency is lifted and we're back to normal. But we're gonna wipe this off from what has happened in the past. And you said some of these are, 19 years old. We're never gonna, I mean, that's,
Correct.
in my opinion, predominantly for our library in our community, and knowing what is owed, what we actually collect over the course of a year. I view this not even as much as a financial decision as a goodwill gesture to the community. It's
And
$500 a year. It's not income that we rely on. I mean, and I understand the idea of, it seems wasteful, but at the end of the day, we are never getting back the money to replace those items. It's never going to happen. $500 a year is never going to come up to what has been lost, 15 years ago, possibly. So we're really just talking about, do we just, reset that button?
Mhm. And I will add that probably the vast majority of that $500 that we do collect annually is not going to be coming off of this 99,000.
It's stuff that somebody has just lost. Like, I lost a book. I know, or I've spilled something on a book. I'm here today to pay for it. It happened this year. Like, something that has just happened is where most of that money comes from, correct?
Correct.
People don't come in and say, 7 years ago, I lost a DVD and I'd like to pay for it. That's not the norm.
Right.
Right. Right. So we're really talking about wiping out debt that we're not going to collect anyway.
Correct.
I mean, I think it's worth
really
it. I mean, I personally think it's worth it just as a goodwill gesture, because at the end of the day, I don't know what of that we could, we'd have to go through the legalities of how long we could even collect on those and find out what isn't collectible anyway. I'm guessing, like you said, the bulk of it probably isn't anything we could legally go after anyway. And, I don't see how this has any impact on us going forward other than to show the community that we're not in the business of penalizing people that maybe are already struggling.
I agree.
And the way, the way it would work as well is, for anybody, any of these fees that are on a card, let's say has been inactive for at least 3 years, those cards are going to get deleted as well. So if that person comes back in to apply for a new card, they're going through the whole process of being a new patron. So they're limited to 2 items. So they're not going to be able to come in and check out, say, 100 items and just never bring them back. If they don't bring back those 2 items that they check out, then they're not going to be able to check out anything else after that until they bring those back.
Right.
So if they do get into, a position where, say they borrow those 2 items and they're just not going to, they're going to repeat history, well, they're still at least limited to 2 items. So you're talking, anywhere from 10 to maybe $50 worth of material that could potentially be lost and not come back.
Right.
On the other hand, they might just become the best patrons.
Right. Well, I mean, we know that going fine free was the right move. I mean, we know that benefited the people in our community without hurting us in any kind of real way. So, like I said, I'm not, tonight, going to try to hash out policy changes for future. But my personal opinion is, I'm reading over these recommendations, the pros and cons, and I view it as, we're not giving up anything really tangible, because it's like fake money. We're never going to actually get it. I mean, it's not coming out of our budget. It's not something we've got budgeted, that we're getting yearly or, monthly payments on. This is debt that, at best we were going to collect a few dollars on. At worst, it may not even have been legally able, for us to collect on it. So, I mean, I see no downfall in saying, this amnesty is like from this point backwards. When we reopen, things will be as normal, unless down the road we do some sort of policy change. But for now, this would just wipe past debt. It's worth it to me if it gives people just an iota of, hope or calm or just feeling community spirit during such an unbelievable time.
I make a motion to waive fees.
I second.
Okay.
Right? That's what if I heard right.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
Fine.
Okay, all those in
That's
favor
good.
say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Are we ready to move on to the signing of the checks?
The question that I had with this is, kind of during the state of emergency, do we want to make a temporary motion to allow just one signature if needed on checks. The
Yes,
bank doesn't require two signatures. That's our policy.
right. I think now
Mhm.
one signature is fine during this.
I agree.
I agree too.
And that's fine with me too.
Okay, does someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. All right, let's move on to our COVID-19 response.
Okay, so what I've printed out and sent to you all is just kind of some ideas for how we might be able to move forward. I think at this point, it's safe to say that we can't just keep following what the school's doing.
No.
Because school's not going to be back for the remainder of the year. I don't think last month any of us thought that this was going to end up extending this far anyway.
No.
So a lot of this is just kind of created in collaboration with some of the other library directors. We've been talking about this in great detail during our weekly meetings. A lot of it too, though, is going to depend on, just guidance, I think, from the state and the local health department and local officials. One of the biggest issues for us is going to be cleaning supplies available. Because we were actually due to do our monthly order for, a lot of that, like Clorox wipes and, paper towels, stuff like that. Right before all of this kind of went down. So we don't even have our full normal cleaning supplies. And right now we're just simply not able to get them. I think we probably do need to that we're going to have to open in phases. So at first, we've got staff all working from home right now. But even kind of getting back into it, we're not, I think, going to be able to reopen at our full schedule. One reason is the way that I understand the situation, from listening to the governor and all of that is anybody who's in that high risk category is still going to have to shelter at home. And we do have a lot of staff in that high risk category. So, I mean, it may be a while that we kind of have to operate on some limited hours. Something that, with that we might need to consider is, do we want to offer some kind of flexible sick time, or even if it's not paid sick time, the opportunity to at least do unpaid sick leave? Because even for a full-time person, once they're able to come back to the library, or even if they're working from home and they get sick and they use up their sick time that they earn regularly, they use up the sick time provided by the CARES Act. If they get really sick, it might be even longer than that, especially if it's repetitive. So I'm kind of thinking that we may need to allow for flexibility in that, I guess, to allow for not sticking strictly with our current policy. As far as sick leave goes.
I don't think anywhere right now, people are sticking to the strict policies of anything, and that's any job right now, any company right now. So the flexibility is definitely on you for the decisions to make at that point, and it happens. And we could be having another business meeting by that time too. I mean, so it's an ongoing thing. I think everything you put on this paper that we're reading in front of us is pretty accurate and pretty straightforward, and I have no problem with what it says at all.
I agree completely. I mean, I think it's extremely important for us to make sure that our staff, especially our high risk staff, has access to flexibility, whether it be working from home or expanded sick leave or whatever is deemed necessary. I think is, of the utmost importance to me.
I agree with that also.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, good. We had a virtual staff meeting last Thursday. And one of the questions that came up from some of the full-time staff was about vacation days. The way our current policy is if you don't use your vacation days before the end of the fiscal year, you can carry over half of what you earned, but everything else is wiped. And I know I've brought this up before. So my thinking is I would like to present a possibly revised current policy, maybe at next month's meeting, to add in a cap instead. The other options, if you all don't want to go that route, just to allow the rollover of all unused vacation, given the current situation, this would be a 1 year, one-time thing. Or, the option to follow the current policy, and if they lose it, they lose it.
I don't want them to lose it. I mean, this is, I think that's, I'm not comfortable with that policy right now. I mean, I either roll over or cash out or something at their preference, but by no means should they be losing vacation time this year, because obviously we can't even anticipate what the rest of the year is going to look like. So I really feel like that, I would like our staff to know that time's going to be there for however they want to use it in the future. And obviously, like I said, it doesn't have to be a policy change. It can be this year that doesn't apply. If you have to carry all of it over to next year, that's fine.
I'm okay with that. I don't think they should lose them either.
Yeah, I don't want them to lose any of their time.
And I don't either.
So do we want to maybe just make a motion to roll over any unused vacation time this year?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
I think
Is that what you think's best, Melissa?
Personally, I would like to see a revision of the policy.
I'm fine with the revision of the policy too,
and not necessarily tonight. We have time.
Right, exactly. But for this specific, at the very least, yes, I mean, is that what you think is best, is unlimited rollover, or, like a cash out or rollover, depending on what they choose?
I would say a cap. We set our sick leave. So with sick leave, of course, the cap that we can accumulate is much higher at any given time.
Right.
But we set the payout at termination cap at 194 hours. So that's 24 days. So our employees who have worked with the library for 15 plus years are earning 24 days of vacation time a year. Of course, the less time they've been here, the less vacation time they earn.
Right.
But I would like to see just a rolling cap of maybe 24 days. And if you're approaching that cap, then you need to use vacation. Because my thinking is if you haven't taken a vacation in a year, there's probably a problem there. um, so that does need to be used because we don't want it to get too big to where we have a huge payout at termination either.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
That makes sense.
And you'll have to, that'll be on you next year, Melissa, to schedule 50 vacation days around each person. If they have 24 this year, 20, at least 40, 48 vacation days, trying to fill in slots and people go on vacation, that's just almost hectic. And people need vacations. Even if you don't go anywhere, I feel like people need vacation time. Even if you can't get out and go somewhere, at least have time off. And if we say, well, you can roll it over, people are going to want to roll over their vacation time. Like, who doesn't want to do that and then have more?
Right.
But I feel like people should be off. Vacation time is definitely a time to, ease your mind and come back to work and get some time off. Whether things are open or not, it's just take the time off.
I think from a policy standpoint, I like the idea of a rolling cap outside of this specific year because this is such a unusual circumstance that it almost requires doing things that we normally wouldn't do. So I do think from a policy standpoint, I think a rolling cap is a great plan. For this specific year, I would like them to have the option to roll it over because at this point, you think we didn't have, a few months of the year and then it went into this and we don't know if come October or whatever, if we don't have a second surge, or we don't even know how long really we're going to be dealing with this one. But it's already been talked about that this could be something that we deal with again in the fall. And at that rate, technically our employees could have months of this year that they couldn't use it anyway. So I do think, I would also like to see a policy change. This year, I would like to see it be allowed to roll over to next year, even though that's not our norm.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm definitely happy with that. And as I'd have to I'd have to look at everybody's accrued hours at this point to see if even starting a cap at this point would cause an issue with anybody.
Right.
I would tend to say that the only person that would cause problems with would probably be me.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It would probably actually be you.
Probably. Okay, so do we want to maybe just make someone make a motion to roll over for this time, and then I'll just wait to present a new policy maybe when things kind of settle down a little bit more.
Absolutely. I make a motion to allow rollover of vacation until next year.
And I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
All right. Okay, I guess that brings us to the next scheduled meeting, which should be on May 18th at 6:30. And I guess we will just leave it open to either virtually as we did tonight, or if possible, then maybe with the current social distancing restrictions, if we're allowed to meet in the community room. Is that what you were thinking, Melissa?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I'll be honest, I would expect us probably to have to meet virtually again next month, just with the way things are going.
Yes. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, then it is 7:30. So I will go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, and I would just like to say thank you for everyone that tuned in tonight. I am, excited to see each of you, and I'm glad that we got to have a semblance of our normal meetings, so to speak. And I appreciate, Melissa, everything that you have done.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, everybody
It was
be
very
safe.
nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Talk to you guys soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Right.